Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a personal Q&A video. If you missed the pregnancy announcement on Instagram and Facebook, then Dan and I are expecting. If you watched the video yesterday and was super confused and you did miss those announcements, then apologies. This video was supposed to go live on a Saturday, but I'm having to refilm the whole thing because the whole video was out of focus, so not ideal. So hopefully a second time is the charm, but I thought I would do a little Q&A to go along with the pregnancy announcement. So I did ask on my Instagram stories if you guys had any questions. I got a ton of different ones, so I will do my best to get through as many as I can. I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's get started. Before I forget as well, there are a ton of luxury sales happening right now. So I do have a full blog post roundup over on chaseamy.com. I've split it up into different retailers and basically detailed the sale or the discount code, my picks, as well as what I ordered. There are just so many good ones. I feel like they've all gone live at the same time. So I will link that down below in the description section if you did want to check that out. So the first question was this a planned pregnancy and how did you know you were ready? So yes, it was a planned pregnancy, and in terms of being ready, I'd say that we were ready emotionally and mentally for a while, but we did things in a fairly structured way. So we bought this house with the intention of hopefully starting a family here, and we started that process, I guess it was about 2 years ago, because we moved in the September, and then last year we just pretty much spent the whole year, well, one, decorating, but also just really focusing in on our business and working really hard to replenish our savings, investing a lot. We weren't able to sell our flat in London because of ongoing fire regulations, which is just still a complete nightmare. Very boring, but they basically introduced new kind of rules and laws about cladding, and it stopped us from selling our flat. So not ideal. So we really kind of exhausted our savings in terms of trying to buy this place. So last year we really focused in on just rebuilding our savings and just really trying to get to a point where we felt very comfortable and stable, both financially and also from our business perspective. Obviously, you know, it's how Dan and I support ourselves, but also we employ quite a few people as well. So we wanted to make sure it was at a good time and a time that made sense. We didn't have a specific timeline for that. It was just a case of when we felt ready. And then it just so happened that was towards the end of the year. So we decided to start trying in January. And then the second question was by far the most popular question, which was how long did it take us to conceive? So as I mentioned, we started trying in January and then we got pregnant in the March. So we are very, very grateful that it was a fairly short journey. I'd say it was short but quite bumpy, and we did actually get pregnant in month 1 in the January, but that ended in a chemical pregnancy. I don't want to make it out to be like a bigger deal than it was. We weren't expecting to get pregnant month 1, so if anything, we took it as quite a good sign, but maybe as a consequence of that, I think it kind of threw everything up in the air, and I had really irregular periods after that, and everything just went a little bit crazy, which is not what you want when you're trying to conceive. So I started hormone tracking, and I think that really helped, and then we ended up getting pregnant in the March. And then the next question was, how did you prep for trying to conceive? So I read a book, and this is pretty much the only prep I did, but I implemented pretty much all the suggestions from that book, and it's a pretty famous one, so I'm sure many of you will be familiar with it, but it's called It Starts With the Egg by Rebecca Fett, and it's just fantastic. I would highly recommend it to anyone thinking about trying to start a family. I'd say it's probably a little bit more geared towards people who have been trying a while or otherwise are going through the process of IVF. Nonetheless, even though those things weren't true of me, I still took a lot from it. I still implemented a ton of the recommendations, and I just loved it. It was very science-based. She references a ton of studies, and it was just so educational, and there were so many things that I just didn't know. So pretty much all of her recommendations I took on board, and we switched from plastic where we could to glassware, kind of tweaked our diet. Our diet was kind of similar to the recommended style of eating anyway, but we definitely made some tweaks. I did the supplements recommended, so would definitely recommend that. I pretty much did everything she suggested. The next question, and I guess it's kind of like a two-parter, which was how did you find out you were pregnant and how did you tell Dan? So I mentioned that I was tracking my hormones, and to be honest, we weren't really properly thinking about trying in March. We tried tried in January and February, and then in March we kind of gave it like a half-hearted go, but we thought it'd be really bad timing because we have really busy Q4s. We run a Christmas tree business in amongst everything else, and we're like, oh my goodness, that'll just be too crazy. And of course that's the month that we got pregnant. But I was tracking my hormones with the intent of tracking them in March properly, and then in April when I was away in the US with properly trying to start trying in May again, but then we obviously never got that far. But because I was tracking my hormones, and specifically I was tracking progesterone, which is supposed to basically dip after ovulation, which it did, so I was like, okay, as expected, not pregnant this month. But then as I was tracking it, I saw it begin to rise again, and I was looking at it going, I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to happen. I mentioned this to Dan, and this was actually on Mother's Day in the UK, and I was like, you know, maybe it means I could be pregnant. And he was like, no, like we barely tried this month. I was like, you're probably right, probably nothing. But he was like, are you going to drink today? We were going to my mum's place. We were all meeting up and having lunch, and usually we'll have Prosecco or something like that. And I said I was happy to give it a miss. You know, it's not a big deal to me if I don't drink. And then he asked me when I could feasibly take a pregnancy test. I didn't think just based off when my period was due. I thought the earliest I could probably take it was the Thursday, and we were on the Sunday. So I was like, we'll just forget about it until then, which obviously was not true. But then the next day I continued to track my hormone levels, and then I saw my progesterone levels begin to rise again. So it kind of carried on from the previous day. I stared at it and I was like, something is up here. So I was like, definitely gonna be negative, but I'm just gonna take a pregnancy test just in case. And then I saw the 2 lines. So Dan was asleep at that point, so I went upstairs, and this is kind of embarrassing, so I wasn't even sure if I wanted to mention it, but in terms of how I told him, so it was the night after the Oscars when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and for some reason I woke him up and I led with that news instead of I'm pregnant. I think I was still in shock or something, but I woke him up and I was like, you'll never guess what happened. Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. And I was like, wow, that's really crazy. And so we had like this discussion about it. And then I was like, also, I'm pregnant. And he was like, wait, what? And so then we just kind of sat in shock on the bed for like half an hour, I think. So yeah, that's how I told him. And then the second most popular question is the next one, which was, what diaper bag do you have your eye on? It made me laugh, that was so commonly asked. So I think we call them nappy bags here, but regardless. So I haven't decided yet, but my current thinking, because I read a tip the other day that said a good way to be able to make outings less stressful is to have 2 diaper bags on the go. So one packed and ready in the car and then one in the house. And I really like that idea because it already feels quite stressful leaving the house. I feel like we're always in a rush, and I imagine that's not going to get better with a baby. So I thought I'd get a fairly inexpensive one, and I have my eye on a couple but haven't decided yet, and have that in the car. I also figured that that's the one that Dan can use because I wouldn't necessarily trust him with like an expensive handbag of mine. And then have one packed in the house as well, which was a repurposed tote bag. So I was thinking maybe my Neville or like an Anya Hindmarch tote that I have. So I'm not sure if that's a stupid idea. I've never done this before and I've never needed a diaper bag before, but if any of you have any tips or suggestions, please let me know in the comment section. I will happily take all advice on board, but that's currently what I'm thinking. The next question was, what was your first trimester like? And I got the impression that a lot of the people that asked this were in their first trimester. So I'm gonna say now, I don't want to scare anyone who's still like really early on, because I don't think my experience was typical. I have a lot of friends who are either currently pregnant or have just given birth, and from a survey of all my friends, it seems like I had a much worse experience with them. And to be clear, like no one said it was a picnic and everyone said it was a challenge, but I really suffered. But again, I don't think that my experience was typical just from talking to my friends. So don't let what I'm about to say scare you, but it was pretty much the worst time of my life. It was really tough in every way. I had all of the pregnancy symptoms, so you name a horrible symptom, I definitely had it. But by far the worst thing was the nausea and the vomiting. I threw up every single day for over 2 months, and I only actually just stopped like 6 days ago. So it's been 6 days without me throwing up. But before then, I literally threw up every single day in the morning. And then it wasn't a case of I threw up and then felt better. I would throw up and then I'd still feel nauseous all day and all night long. Like there was no relief. The only relief was when I was literally unconscious sleeping. So yeah, it was beyond brutal. The only time I kind of felt better was eating, so at least I was able to eat. I do hear some people can't keep anything down. Thankfully that wasn't the case for me. But yeah, I pretty much just, I woke up, I threw up, I then ate, slept, and I kind of repeated that until the next morning when I threw up again. So that was my routine for 2 months. It was really, it was challenging. It was like having really horrible food poisoning for like 2 months straight, if you can imagine how horrible that is. And then I also had the fatigue, but to be honest, the fatigue didn't really bother me because the sleep was kind of like a welcome relief from the nausea and the vomiting. And then what else did I have? Really horrible acne, the worst skin of my life. It was absolutely brutal. I had really bad food aversion, so I didn't like a whole ton of things. A lot made me sick. Sore boobs is a common one, I know. I definitely had that too. Bloating really badly as well. Just like name your horrible thing and I had it. But definitely the worst was the nausea. That subsided, or rather it got noticeably better in week 14. But I'm not gonna lie, it was horrible from like week 6 to week 14. So it was a long stretch of time. I'm very glad it's over now, and I think it's one of the hardest parts for me was not knowing when it would end, because like I'd Google and some people were like, oh, it doesn't end till 20 weeks or it lasted the whole pregnancy, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I literally don't think I can do this for that long. But fortunately mine did dramatically improve at week 14. The next question was another really popular one, and it was all about kind of gender. So do we want to find out the sex of the baby? Do we have an inkling? Do we know if it's a boy or a girl? And are we having a gender reveal? So yes, we do know. We've actually known for quite a while, so we got the results at 10 weeks. We did have an inkling, but I don't know if inklings are just nonsense and you kind of just have like inklings what you hope it's going to be. But we did have the same inkling, and then we found out. Obviously we would have been happy regardless, especially because we were getting the results at the same time as like health results of the baby. So that's actually what we were focused on, and thankfully all good there. But yeah, found out the gender. It was what we thought it was going to be, and we're just absolutely over the moon. We aren't having a gender reveal simply because I don't really feel like it's much of a thing. Obviously we already know, but I've not really known anyone in real life to do one. Like plenty of our friends have had kids, and I've never actually seen anyone do a gender reveal. So I think it's more of like a US/Instagram thing. So we've just been telling people. I think I will share it at some point on here. I'm not sure when, but I will share it at some point. Any ideas on baby's name? Yes, we already have the name picked out. We're still undecided on the middle name, so we don't have the full thing. But yeah, we do have the first name already picked out. So the next question, there were a few around the same topic. It was mainly around work. So are you going to cut back on work? What will your childcare/work arrangements be like after baby is born? So I'm not planning on cutting back on work, mainly because I like work. We have our own business and we've worked really hard on it, so I have no intention on cutting back. In terms of work arrangements after baby's born, my mum's going to be helping us out a lot, which I feel very grateful for, because I know not everyone has that option, and we feel very lucky that both of our mums live so close by. So my mum's going to be helping in terms of the day-to-day help. My mother-in-law is also probably going to help at some point as well. We're not sure. She has like a 9-to-5 job in an office, so I'm sure she's going to help when she can, but in terms of day-to-day management, we're basically going to tag team it between me, Dan, and my mum. I'm not sure how that's going to work and what it's going to look like, but I feel like we're going to figure it out and just find a system that works for us. We have flexible working, both me and Dan, so you know, I do think that there's going to be an element of flexibility, but hopefully between the three of us we'll manage. Next up I have a couple of travel questions. So was the baby made in Cancun, and are you planning a baby moon? So no, the baby was not made in Cancun, it was the month after. And then in terms of baby moon, no, Dan asked me if I wanted to do one, and before we got pregnant I was like, oh yeah, maybe that sounds fun, but now that I am pregnant, I don't want to go anywhere. I think that really long trip in the US kind of put me off. I literally found out 5 days before I left for the US, so it was kind of a whirlwind. I hadn't had time to digest it, and then I was away for a month, and I left feeling really good and I came back feeling awful. So by the end I was just really homesick and no food was sounding good to me. I wanted kind of familiar food, and I just don't want to travel ever again pretty much. I'm sure that will change, you know, hopefully after birth, but I have no desire to go anywhere, so no plans for a baby moon. The next question was asked a couple of times. I thought it was a really sweet one, which was, what are you most excited about? And I think it's going to be like the change from our current situation, which is just, you know, us two in this house, so, you know, fairly quiet, to just having a really full, busy house, but also getting a dog finally at the end of August. We've been waiting on getting our garden fixed, which has just been literally a year-long saga. It's been more than that, it's been like 18 months. It's just been the worst thing. We've had a ton of issues with it, so we were waiting on getting that fixed before being able to get a dog, and it's finally happening in like 3 weeks time. So we're going to be getting a dog in August, and then obviously the baby, so we're going to be going from a very quiet house to chaos, and I'm just incredibly excited about it. Next up is a kind of workout question. So there were a few around, are you working out in pregnancy? Did you ask for advice from your doctor / midwife? So I am working out. I think most weeks I did something, but I was so ill that I couldn't do a lot for a really long time. I'd say that most weeks I had maybe like one day where I felt okay-ish. So those days I really kind of seized the opportunity and tried to get a workout in, even if it was a very gentle one. But most weeks, especially in my worst period, which was like 6 weeks, it was literally like one day a week. So there wasn't a whole ton of working out happening. I'm doing a lot more now, and I have been doing it for a few weeks now, and it feels really good to get back into it. I didn't ask my doctor or midwife, mainly because the NHS bombard you with information about how important it is to work out and weight management and all those things. So I didn't feel like I needed to ask permission because they tell you without you asking. But I did clarify one question with my midwife, and that was about cardio. So I was doing cardio and I was getting my fitness back up to speed, and the guidance is to basically not do anything where you can't hold a normal conversation, which to me isn't cardio, because if you're doing cardio properly then you're out of breath. So I clarified that, and she said basically if you were doing it before, it's fine now, and as long as you're recovering your breath quickly afterwards, it should be fine. So that was the only clarification I had, but I'm pretty much back to kind of, maybe not in terms of fitness where I was before, because I did take quite a long break, but I'm back to more regularly working out, and it feels unbelievably good. Next question, this was again asked a few times, and it made me laugh because it's just a funny question. Are you concerned about your white furniture? And the answer is no, because I've had excellent training with Dan, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, oh, but a baby is going to be so much worse than your husband. And I'm sure that's right, but I don't think everyone quite appreciates how awful Dan is. He drops things like on a daily basis. I will be sitting there watching him eat, and I just see the food dropping from like the plate to his mouth, just like drop, drop, drop on the couch. So we've gotten really good at removing stains. We have fabric protection. We are great at removing stains. We also machine wash the covers on a regular basis. We also have an extra pair of covers as well. So we have been in training, or I have been in training for as long as I've been with him. So it doesn't scare me. I'm like, bring it on, it'll be fine. I feel like I have a ton more questions to get through, but I feel like I've been talking for a really long time already, so I'm gonna only answer 2 more. One easy one, how many kids in total? Before I got pregnant, I was gonna say 3. Now I'm thinking more like 2, now that I've realized how miserable it is. So yeah, we'll see how I feel afterwards, but currently I'm thinking 2. And then the last question, because this one was asked a lot, was will you still be doing fashion videos and bag reviews? Are you planning on doing baby content, and will the focus of your channel change? So no intention for the focus of my channel to change. I don't personally watch kind of family channels or baby channels, if that's a thing. So I kind of want to do the content which I watch, which, you know, I like fashion videos and things like that. So I don't have any plans to change. I wasn't planning on doing any specific baby content. I was thinking if I was going to do updates, I just kind of work them into vlogs. So I was thinking of doing vlogs a little bit more frequently than I usually do. But yeah, that's my current thought process. So if you guys want to see anything in particular, let me know, but currently I'm just thinking vlogs. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. There are a lot to get through. If you do have a question which I didn't answer, then feel free to leave it for me in the comment section, and I'll either try and get back to you, or if there are enough of them, then I might do a second part to the Q&A, or maybe I'll try and do it on Instagram or the blog, or I'll try and answer them in some capacity. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.